Okay, I'm live. Hello, hello. So happy Monday. This is Amanda Kelly with this art called Life. We are on day 14 of my Let There Be Light series. And today is another powerful day. This is why I was doing this series too, is because December is just jam-packed full of all sorts of powerful energies, and we are entering a massive transition. So I wanted to speak into all of these ideas, and today is the solar eclipse, which brings a lot of powerful energies, and it's a new moon, and we're in the midst of like this buildup of energies until the 21st. So there's a lot going on energetically, and it's a really powerful time to reflect and consider the truth, to sit with yourself and consider what is true. So I titled this, "The Truth Shall Set You Free." And I'm going to dive into a little bit as well what this idea of the awakening is all about. And, oh, I've got some shiny lights on me right now. And what is the awakening? A lot of people are referring to it as the Great Awakening, getting soft there because of the surge again. But if you watched my video yesterday, there's a lot of interesting things going on in society. So I'm going to delve into that a little bit deeper from a slightly different angle today. So let's get into it. I can't speak. The truth shall set you free. See, it's even hard to say. Oh, weird energies. No, so think about it. The truth shall set you free. Okay, well, what if the truth is hidden? If we take that by extension, if the truth is hidden, it means, the odds are we're not free. We're not actually free. The truth has been hidden to keep us from being free. So we've been living under this illusion of freedom, but actually the way it's all been set up is basically the opposite of what we believe. So let me actually explain what that means. So we're basically living in an inverted matrix where everything is the opposite of what it should be, more or less. So life is all about growth and expansion. Let's start there. So if we are alive, we are meant to grow. We are meant to expand and grow literally, but also grow emotionally, mentally, psychologically, spiritually, from a soul level, from an energetic level. We are meant to expand. That is what we come to Earth to do. We learn our lessons so that we can become a greater version of ourselves, so that we can take one step closer to achieving our fullest potential in this embodied form. So we are humans having an embodied physical experience, and it's not easy to ascend into our highest capacities, our highest potentials, when we are having a very dense experience. The lower energies, the dualities, the polarities, all of this keeps us in separation from our power. But we are here to learn to transcend that. So everything that happens to us is a lesson. It's an opportunity to grow. And that is, every lifetime that we come here, we have another opportunity, and we will repeat the lessons until we get them. So right now, we have been living in an inverted matrix with an anti-life agenda. So the word live, if you flip it around, it is evil. If you spell it backwards, it is evil. And if you look at the world around us right now, what are they trying to stop us from doing? They're trying to stop us from living right now, living the fullest expression of our lives. They're trying to stop us from being free, and life is all about being free sovereign beings. That is actually who we are down at our core. We are sovereign, powerful beings who are meant to expand. So right now, everything is literally set up to serve the opposite agenda, which is an anti-life agenda, aka evil. So the opposite of live. So it is against the thriving of humanity, and I'm not about surviving. As a cancer survivor, I decided very early on I wasn't going to just get through it and survive. I wanted to thrive, so I looked at every possible angle I could to do the actual deeper healing that was required to step into that space of truly thriving, because I wasn't thriving before I was diagnosed either. Obviously, I wouldn't have gotten cancer at all in the first place if I had been in a position where I was truly thriving deep down. On face value, surface level, I looked like I was living a decent life, but I certainly knew that I wasn't in alignment, but I couldn't really even put a finger on why or what I was actually meant to be doing. I had an inkling of an idea, and so my energy was completely constricted. I also had a history of trauma, so there was multiple layers going on there. Cancer is a perfect storm, but just speaking from my experience, I was in this energy of constriction, contraction. My energy was small, and I was not in my power. I was the opposite, and I was basically just in like scarcity mode and in survival mode. And once I was diagnosed, it kind of like hit me like a slap in the face, but in a hey, wake up kind of way. Oh my gosh, the reason this is happening, or I don't know if I was quite there yet, but I realized it was an opportunity. I was getting a second chance, if you will, to realize what was not in alignment in my life, what was not working for me, so that I could wake up, fully live, and begin to thrive, truly thrive. So right now, everything is set up the opposite of that. I was disconnected from my truth, and that's the thing. Pretty much everybody, well, not everybody, because people are waking up. That's the whole thing about the Great Awakening. But vast majority of people have been disconnected from the truth because they've been disconnected from their power. They've been disconnected from who they truly are as powerful, sovereign, divine beings who are connected directly to source. So yesterday I was getting into this idea of, the pineal gland has been calcified, and they've been keeping us in fear, not just this year, but look at all the disaster situations that we hear in the news all day in, day out, every year. This is, and of course, even look at entertainment. Vast majority of entertainment is, apocalyptic and violence and all of this kind of stuff to keep us in this stress state. So if you think about it, all of it is energy constriction rather than contraction and expansion. And that is preventing us from achieving our potential. That is preventing us from growing. So fear also keeps us in tunnel vision. It also prevents us from being critical thinkers. And the educational system is also designed in that way as well. We're in I was getting into it yesterday, in these concrete little boxes, suppressing creativity, also suppressing critical thinking. This is the way we do things, and you get, we learn things and then are tested on them. And then how does that actually apply to our lives? Some of it may, tangentially kind of apply. Some of it helps develop critical thinking, but vast majority of it is really designed to keep us thinking within certain parameters, because they do need people to become doctors, they do need people to become lawyers, so on and so forth. But, overall, it is not actually serving our abilities to become our fullest potential across the board. And, you know, if we would be talking about emotional intelligence and mindset and, you know, practical 101s on how to be an independent, self-sufficient being once you leave the educational system. You know, managing your finances being a really basic form of that. So, you know, finance 101 should be part of the educational curriculum before you graduate, before you're 16, like even before you're even 18, before, like by the time you're 16, I believe you should have that foundational knowledge. And, you know, so gosh, there's so much I want to say about this, but, you know, the truth can't be hidden. So that's why we're in this situation now. That's why everything is designed right now. You know, the truth, universal truth with a capital T cannot be denied. The forces are trying to keep it hidden in the shadows as best they can. They're trying to control us as best they can right now to prevent this awakening process. But it is a snowball effect because it's starting to break down and people are starting to see it. The matrix is shattering right now, and that's why we see this big division, because there's still a lot of people who are still stuck in the illusion of the matrix. But there's a lot of people who are starting to see how nothing adds up and how we're living in an anti-life agenda and how it is not working for us, yet we are meant to be here to be sovereign beings. So we have to continue forward and keep doing the work, keep waking up. So, these narratives, just to be clear, these narratives, hey girl, these narratives that they've been pushed on us from multiple, areas. So look at the scientific community, actually. Let's just start with them, because like we don't even think about that, but science has an agenda. Like, we don't like to think about that because we've been told that science is super unbiased, but actually, if we look at who's funding what is getting published, and it's this idea, when I was in grad school, I debated getting a PhD, but something about it felt really off because there's this idea, publish or die. And if you don't get funding for the things you want to research, then you're not going to be able to finish that PhD. You're not going to be able to get a professorship. You're not going to be able to get tenure. So you have to be operating within the paradigm that is currently supported unless you have independent funding and can do all of that kind of stuff yourself. And, at that point, if you're totally against, the current paradigm and nobody agrees with you, good luck getting a position in a university, for example. So that is one thing I wanted to be clear on. And when we get down to the level of like medical things, which are kind of prevalent right now, there is a particular scientific process. So if we want to be all, it's science, well then let's actually dig into the science and see if it's actually real science. Because if there's no safety protocols, if there's no proper, what's the word? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking out. The variables that they're studying. If there's no placebo, if there's no control group, thank you. Wow, brain fart there. If there's no control group to compare it against, that's not real science. And, if they're not doing prolonged studies for a serious injection, that is not science either. And it can't be like a 6-day safety study. Even a few months is really not sufficient. And, side effects are just effects. Like, let's just be straight. And I don't really think that it's pro-life to be saying that, you take this drug, it may also kill you. Like, it may prevent that symptom, but it may also have a side effect of killing you. It may have a side effect of giving you cancer or some other really serious disease, paralysis. We're seeing all of this stuff. Rates of autism are like dramatically increasing, and there's correlations, and people are pretending that's not real, and that's not science. So I really have, as somebody who had a really heavy science-based background, I have a really hard time with this whole, like, it's science thing, because I'm like, it's not. But also, if we look at the way science is, the current paradigm, it's still ignoring a lot of massive developments that have come from quantum physics. The fact of the matter is, the way we study science is extremely limited because one variable compared against another variable is really just not the way the world works. We live in a very complex universe. There's also stuff called the observer effect and confirmation bias. Confirmation bias I got into yesterday. Observer effect, in quantum physics, they found that, you know, the scientists, if they had an expectation, that expectation could actually impact the outcome of the study. So that's not objective at the end of the day. It's just not. So as much as I love, you know, the process of science, and I love all of, you know, diving into biology and all those subjects, we have to be really, really careful with, you know, bias and interpretation of results and looking at agendas behind who is publishing all of these studies and these findings and stuff like that. You know, politicians, media, big corporations, and even celebrities, you know, they're pushing this narrative on us, but they're also just hoping that as enough pushing, we're not going to stop, pause, and think for ourselves. We're not going to activate our critical thinking because they've been trying to stop us from doing that basically our whole lives. So we're not going to think for ourselves is what they hope. So we really have to stand in our power and do the research and connect with people who are doing the critical thinking as well. And, you know, say, hey, does this make sense to you? Because it's not adding up for me. And, you know, just stay open. Stay open is such a big key. They are also right now trying to, you know, quash anybody who speaks against the narrative, you know, quash their voices. If there's no room for discussion, that is very highly suspect to me. If we cannot have a calm discussion about our differing ideas and opinions and perspectives, that is red flag number one for me, because, you know, how do we develop, how do we create more science and more progress and more growth? It comes from sharing ideas and shifting perspectives and broadening our views and ideas and notions and perspectives on certain subjects. So if we have one particular narrative, how are we going to make progress? How are we going to grow? Again, getting back to this anti-life matrix, anti-life agenda. So yeah, yes, and there's, you know, if there's no safety trials, if it's not replicable, if there, you know, we're living in a very reductionist, like, scientific paradigm, and it's just not actually working for us, and it's not true science. So if we want to spout out that it's science thing, let's actually get clear on what science really is at its purest form, and remember that science itself is a human construct, and it is evolving as we evolve. That is another key that I think most people forget. Science right now is different from science 50 years ago, 100 years ago. We have to remember it's constantly evolving. Technology is constantly evolving as we evolve. So what we think is true now, look back to Copernicus and the sun, vastly different understanding of reality now as we did then. And, you know, if we look back towards the ancients, they had a great deal of wisdom of astronomy and geometry. And I personally believe that they, in many ways, were far more advanced than, number one, we give them credit for, number two, us. Right now, you know, we think we're the most technologically advanced. I question that, and it's hard to know for a fact, but I definitely highly question that. I also highly question his story. You know, it was written by the victors, so usually the victors have an agenda as well, and are always going to paint certain people in a poor light. So also the repression of feminine power and women, the same idea. It's this patriarchal mode of operating. You know, there's the mind programming, the mind control. This isn't just coming from the media and the entertainment and all of that, the politicians, the big corporations. It's even coming from religion, keeping people in fear. A vengeful God to me that's not what it's about. God is love. So we're literally inverting everything that's true and making it seem like truth. So if we're in fear, we're also dependent, and that's another way to keep us controlled. So this is exactly what's going on right now, keeping us in fear so that we're more easily controlled. So thank you. Yeah, it is important to talk about, because I think, this is part of the process of waking up to our true powers. We have to learn the truth, and the truth shall set us free. And they're trying to keep the truth hidden. To get back to what I was saying in the beginning, they're trying to keep the truth under wraps, which is why there's a lot of censorship happening. And yesterday I was like, I may sound a little strange because I'm going to try not to speak certain words and everything. I don't know exactly how they, sort of things, but yeah, I'm doing my best to not have mine. So, now is the time to realize that we are shifting into a paradigm where we are going to be living in our power, but we have to choose that. This is what the whole ascension process is about, 2021. If you don't, want to dive into the whole idea of ascension, we're entering a new year, and it's going to be a powerful year. It's a powerful year for upgrades. So now is the time to do the shadow work, do the deconditioning, think about what kind of programming you've had, your limiting beliefs, where they came from, what's not serving you. Go back to my other videos where I dive into that if you want a little bit more detail and clarity on some of that. But yeah, listen, tune into your intuition. As I've been saying, you know best for you, because your intuition and your heart wisdom know the truth with a capital T. So that's another reason they've been trying to keep us disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from our power center, disconnected from our intuition and from our heart center, because that is where the truth comes from. And once we are connected to source, once we are connected to our intuition, everything comes back into alignment. So this is the work, this is the real work that we are being called to do right now. And it's a choice, it's always a choice. But if you want to have a life of freedom and expansion and growth, if you want to stand in your power, if you want to reclaim your power, then this is a choice that you can make, is you choose to tune in, you choose yourself over the agenda, and you literally take what they've been telling you and do the opposite. Think the opposite, because everything has been in an inverted matrix. The truth has been flipped upside down. So everything that they've told you, basically, just think the opposite. Getting back into medicine and healing and all of that, nature does heal. And they've been telling us that we need these pills and we need all of that. And yeah, sometimes the intervention is necessary in the moment, but it should never be a forever thing. So it's, it's something that we really have to take a step back and consider. So getting back to the Great Awakening, what that really means. So an awakening process is opening your eyes, expansion of consciousness. It's really coming back to the truth, learning the truth of yourself, of your nature, of the universe and how it really works, of our society and the systems and how they've actually been operating. But awakening fundamentally is awakening to your true nature and to the fact that you are divine source and you are ultimately powerful and you are a sovereign being. So freedom. So that is what the awakening process, fundamentally speaking, is really about. And right now, it's snowballing because we are planting seeds left and right. And, somebody saying that might trigger something in the next person. And, we're, posting things on social media, which is why they're trying to, keep a lot of stuff under wraps. They're trying to hide the truth. But, it's basically becoming conscious of, it's just becoming conscious and breaking off from the matrix and standing in your power, standing in your sovereignty. It's simple yet profound. And it's simple in theory, but also complex in the process. It's not necessarily so straightforward. I actually wanted to show you something. So right now, before I show you this thing, it's a resource, but I just want to conclude, before I fully conclude, that, when we operate from a place of wholeness and from integrated wholeness, like mind, body, and soul are aligned, the highest good for all of us, if we're aligned with the highest good for all of us, everything does work out for us. So realign with that truth, mind, body, and soul integrated and coming back into wholeness, and then everything will fall into place, everything will work out for us. And that does require, coming back into alignment does require doing the shadow work, releasing the beliefs, releasing the traumas. And that's what my upcoming program is all about. It's diving into all of these processes that will help us come back into our power and into a space of integrated wholeness, mind, body, soul aligned, so that we can step fully and powerfully into our greatest version of ourselves, into our highest potential. It's a process, which is why it's helpful to have a container. It's helpful to have guidance as you go through this journey. It's helpful to have people to connect with who are on the journey with you, because it's not always easy going it alone. So this is what I have been envisioning for actually quite some time now, but it didn't feel right, and now I understand, because I see the bigger picture more clearly myself even. So now is the perfect time for it to come into being. So I'll be sharing more about that, but yes, it's time to heal back into wholeness right now. And let me share with you a resource that I found extremely helpful, because it's literally called the Great Awakening Map, and I'll show it to you quickly. So I got the printed version. There's also free downloadables, and I'm not like associated with them at all, but I've just found their account and the map to be extremely helpful. So it gets into all these ideas of what's actually happening right now, and then the darker stuff, because there's a lot. So I want to share this. There's some crazy stuff on here. Like, actually, like, you will think it's crazy. I think a lot of it is crazy. But I always go back to this idea: the truth is stranger than fiction. So anytime you doubt these people who are spewing ideas that may be called conspiracies by certain people, okay, who created that term, conspiracy theorist? The CIA. Did you know that? And then, we think about, okay, why would they do that? Why? Just question everything. As I was saying yesterday, go back into my video yesterday, if you haven't watched that one yet, about I talked more about the bigger picture, and more layers of it, the corruption and so on and so forth. But yeah, so universal truth, it's something that cannot be denied. It is coming to the surface. So that's what is being brought up right now. The shadows are coming to the light, because the truth cannot be hidden in the darkness forever. And that's what this awakening process is all about. And the more of us that wake up, the more of us that raise our vibration above the vibration of fear and control, because it is all about raising our vibrational frequency, the more and more and more and more and more of us that do that, the more that the collective frequency is raised up. And so the less the fear can control and manipulate us. So that's why it's actually extremely important for us to choose this, for us to stand in our power and to do the work and to speak our truth. As scary as it may be, as, you know, concerning as it may be, if, you know, there are people in your life who might not understand it, or, you know, or think you might be crazy, like, totally, I have people in my life like that. So you have to, you know, just decide what is more important for you, and you don't have to do it now, but, you know, go on your journey, go on your process, and always go back to what feels good for me, what do I know is true. And that's something that comes from within. And there are greater truths with a capital T that cannot be denied. So I'm sending you so much love. This is definitely, I went on tangents that I didn't expect to completely. So yeah, it's longer than I anticipated, but I am sending you so much love right now, and it's all really important stuff. So I am so glad that you are here listening, and so glad that you are in a position to choose to show up for yourself, because the more you show up for yourself, the more you can show up for those around you, and the more that you can show up for collective humanity and help us rise up above the fear and the power agendas, the control agendas, stand in your true power. The true form of power is not control over. It is a power from within, and it's a power that binds and unites us. So question everything and question what is true for you first and foremost. What supports you and your growth? What supports you and your expansion? Tune into that. Tune into your heart wisdom. And that is the truth. The truth shall set you free. Onward and upward in love and light, guys. See you tomorrow.